A little bit of a spring boost, if you will, on Thursday. U.S. stocks had slumped a little bit amid concerns about the U.S. Federal Reserve's plans to pare back its stimulus measures. We saw a bit of a comeback on Thursday, the major indices finishing in positive territory after some strong manufacturing data. The Dow and S&P each closing up over 0.5% there. Turning to Asia, the Nikkei's closed this Friday as Japan marks the first day of spring with a long weekend. Asian stocks otherwise following in Wall Street's positive trend this Friday. The Shanghai Composite in particular doing nicely, up about 0.8% there. Now, one story we've been following fairly closely this week is the plummeting value of the Chinese currency, the yuan. On Thursday, it fell to a 13-month low against the dollar. This as Beijing takes steps to loosen its grip on the currency and the broader economy in general. Now, for more on that, we can turn to Beijing and our correspondent Paul James, who's on the line there. Paul, are you with us? Hi, Paul. Can you explain to us what's going on with the Chinese currency here? Why has it been losing value so steadily?
There are a few factors at play here. There are a couple of things. Market forces, one, are pressing down the value of the renminbi. Traders are a little bit bearish about the Chinese economy right now. Numbers to begin the year have been a little bit less than expected as far as overall economic growth is concerned. Plus, you've got issues with the basket of currencies which the Chinese yuan trades against, in that it's not a free-flowing operation compared to the rest of the currencies around the world. So when the currencies that they trade against, like the U.S. dollars or the Japanese yen, when they go up, the Chinese currency devalues down. But there has also been some speculation and some suggestion amongst traders here that there are non-market forces at play. In particular, suggestions that the People's Bank of China has been working behind the scenes with the four major state banks to try and push down the value of the renminbi intentionally. A couple of reasons that being cited here. One is to bolster the Chinese export sector, which is still quite sluggish, and two, to try and get rid of some hot money inflows that had moved in as commodity traders had been moving currency in, expecting with the widening of the currency trading band that the value of the renminbi would go up. So if that were the case, this is all speculation because the People's Bank of China can't come out and automatically say that, otherwise they'll be tapped as a currency manipulator, something that they want to try to avoid. It's a yoke that they've been straddled with up until about 4 years ago.
But in particular, we know the government has been taking action on the exchange rate. Tell us a little bit about that. What direction is the government trying to take this in, and how much further can we expect it to go?
Well, the government this week, in fact, expanded the band in which the yuan trades in. It had been trading within a valuation of 1% on a central parity rate that was set by the central bank at the morning of every trading day. They've increased it now to 2%. Now, this doesn't seem like a lot when you talk about the broader level of the currency, but it is a sign from Beijing that they do want to be seen as being more open to the global markets. Now, as far as the steps that they'll take further, that's an open question because of the fact that the economy is still a little bit sluggish and the fact that there is a little bit of concern about the export sector, as I mentioned, and where they want to take it from here. But the broader estimation on the value of the renminbi, the Chinese currency, is that it can only go up. Most market analysts say that they believe that the currency here in China is at least 20% undervalued. So for long-term traders, the Chinese yuan still probably not a bad bet.
Paul James in Beijing there on the falling value of the Chinese currency. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, we've been talking about the EU summit in Brussels, where additional sanctions on Russia have been up for discussion, but the health of the Eurozone is also front and centre.
Yeah, after marathon talks this Thursday, European policymakers agreed on a plan to unwind failing banks. That's a deal that clears the way for towards a European banking union. Now, that is meant to prevent another debt crisis and bank bailouts that are funded by taxpayers. The European Parliament and Eurozone finance ministers agreed to a rescue fund with a firepower of 55 billion euros. The European Central Bank and others have previously voiced concerns that won't be enough. But ECB President Mario Draghi says the deal is a step in the right direction.
It's a very good agreement. It's progress. It's the points we always made were that we need a mechanism which is properly funded, and the agreement actually improves on the pre-existing funding. There's also a clear reference to enhanced borrowing capacity from the market by the fund.
EU nations also agreed to a sweeping new policy to combat tax evasion after Luxembourg dropped some of its reservations. That'll lead to an automatic exchange of information among EU banks that's intended to cut down on banking secrecy.
All right, well, let's finish up with a somewhat perplexing story. The bankrupt Mt. Gox says it's recovered some of the Bitcoin currency that it lost.
Yeah, you'll remember that Mt. Gox is the Tokyo-based Bitcoin exchange that filed for bankruptcy last month after losing about $500 million worth of that digital currency. The company said it was the victim of an online hack. Now they're saying they've actually found some of that money, about 200,000 of the 850,000 Bitcoins that went missing have been uncovered in what they've described as a forgotten digital wallet, an old format that they don't use anymore and apparently didn't think to check. They say this discovery was made on March 7th, but only went public now after some online people who are interested in the Bitcoin currency anyway, who'd been studying the firm's collapse, saw that Bitcoins have in fact been moving through that exchange despite it saying it was bankrupt and no longer working. It's not clear how that will affect the firm's bankruptcy filings. It's worth about $117 million at today's rates, that money that they found. So it's a little bit like finding some extra money under the couch, the coins behind the cushions, but obviously worth much more money than anything I've got in mind.
Just a tad more, Kate. Well, thanks for bringing us up to date with all the business news today. Now it's time for a look at web news, and we begin in the Netherlands, where